What if, and just think about this for a second, what if a single, really bold economic idea could unravel generations of systemic corruption
Hmm.
and abolish a deeply ingrained social problem like dowry
Right, a huge one.
and deliver universal access to things like healthcare and education, all within one country?
It does sound, well, almost too good to be true, doesn't it? Like a magic bullet.
It really does. But what if it isn't? What if there's a serious plan behind it?
Well, it's certainly an audacious vision,
Mm.
and one that really demands we take a rigorous deep dive into its principles, into the intricate mechanisms it's actually proposing.
Yeah.
We're talking about a complete reimagining of how a society functions fundamentally.
Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into an extraordinary vision emerging from the heart of Nepal. It's a concept known as Kalkiism.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just about abstract economic theory or some, academic exercise you'd read in a journal. Oh, no.
Not at all.
This is about a proposed societal transformation that promises profound, almost revolutionary change for an entire nation. And it's built on a very specific blueprint.
That's right. Our focus today comes from a comprehensive outline of a book. It's titled Kalkiism, The Cashless Revolution in Nepal.
Okay.
And this material, it lays out an incredibly detailed blueprint for a new societal structure. It's really rich with specific proposals, anticipated challenges, and frankly, remarkably ambitious goals for national development, social justice, the whole package.
So our mission today is to unpack this complex and honestly, utterly fascinating set of ideas for you.
Yeah.
We want to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight, helping you understand not just what Kalkiism proposes, but how it aims to achieve its goals.
Mhm.
And maybe why its proponents think it can succeed, where other efforts, maybe past revolutions even, have kind of stumbled.
Right, the why now and why this
Right.
questions.
Exactly. We'll explore the deep-seated problems it aims to solve, its core solutions, and the remarkable ripple effects it envisions for pretty much every aspect of life in Nepal.
And this is where it gets really interesting, as you said.
Yeah, let's start unpacking.
Okay. So the genesis of Kalkiism, where it comes from, it's deeply rooted in Nepal's, well, tumultuous historical context.
Right.
Particularly this pervasive frustration, this feeling that promises haven't been kept after numerous political upheavals.
It's had quite a history, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The country's gone through monumental transformations. The end of the 104-year Rana oligarchy back in the 50s,
Mhm.
leading to a constitutional monarchy.
Yeah.
Then the People's Movement in 1990 that brought in multi-party democracy.
Okay.
And most recently, the April Uprising in 2006, which ultimately led to the abolition of the monarchy itself and the establishment of a democratic republic.
So revolution after revolution, basically. Each one promising a new dawn, a fresh start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yet, what the sources reveal, and this is crucial, is that despite these huge shifts in governance, the fundamental pledges, things like equity, development, social justice, they've largely remained unmet for ordinary people.
And corruption is a big part of that story.
A massive part. Corruption in particular is described almost like a disease, a corrosive force that's seeped into every single level of governance.
Wow.
From, the smallest local village office right up to the highest levels of power. It's undermined public trust. It's derailed countless development projects. And it's just stifled the aspirations of ordinary Nepali citizens.
It sounds exhausting for people living through that.
It absolutely is. And this deep-seated frustration, this collective yearning for something truly transformative, that's what led directly to the establishment of the Kalkiism Research Center.
Okay, tell us about this center.
Right. It's headquartered in Kathmandu, and it's described not just as a think tank, but as a visionary initiative, even a crucible for transformative ideas.
Strong words.
Yeah. And what truly sets it apart, what's really fascinating here, is its unique structure. It's multidisciplinary.
How so? Not just economists.
Exactly. It's not your typical academic setup. The sources highlight it as a unique collaboration, bringing together 50 of Nepal's top economists
Okay.
and 50 leading medical professionals.
Huh. Doctors and economists working together on national policy. That's unusual.
It is.
Yeah.
And when you think about tackling systemic problems, you usually think economists, political scientists, maybe sociologists.
Right.
But here you have financial strategists working hand in hand, day in, day out with healthcare experts. And this blend is seen as crucial.
Why? What does that bring?
It allows Kalkiism to propose solutions that are, and this is a quote, not only theoretically robust, but also practical and implementable.
Ah, so it grounds the economic theory in real-world needs, like health.
Precisely. It's designed to address the interconnectedness of a nation's economic health and its citizens' actual well-being. It's about designing a system that works on paper and works on the ground, addressing things like public health, which, let's be honest, often get sidelined in purely economic reforms.
Makes sense. So what's the core idea they came up with?
At the very heart of Kalkiism's vision, its foundational principle, is the concept of a cashless economy.
Okay.
Paramendra Kumar Bhagat's central idea is, well, straightforward conceptually, but revolutionary in scope for a country like Nepal. Replace physical currency with digital transactions facilitated by government-owned banks.
Government-owned banks. Interesting. And going cashless isn't just about paying with your phone, I take it.
Not at all. It's not just for convenience, though that might be a side benefit. It's seen as the fundamental lever for systemic change across the board.
Okay, so how does it work? What are the main goals of going cashless in this model?
The sources detail 3 primary, really interconnected objectives, and each one is designed to tackle Nepal's entrenched problems head-on. First, and perhaps most importantly, transparency.
Right. Makes sense. Digital trails.
Exactly. By digitizing all financial transactions, a cashless economy basically eliminates the opacity that enables corruption. Imagine every single rupee, every paisa exchanged being recorded and visible in a system.
Wow.
This makes, and I quote again, every transaction traceable, giving no room for bribery, embezzlement, or other illicit activities.
It's like turning on a massive floodlight, isn't it? Shining it into all those dark corners where shady deals happen.
That's a great analogy. It makes it effectively impossible to hide the transfer of illicit funds. A government official, for instance, can no longer accept a suitcase full of cash that just disappears without a trace. Every payment, every receipt becomes part of a potentially immutable digital ledger.
Okay, transparency, that's huge. What's the second objective?
The second is inclusion. And this is particularly vital for a country like Nepal, with its incredibly diverse geography and significant rural populations, many living in very remote areas.
Yeah, mountains, valleys. Getting services out there must be tough.
Exactly. But a digital economy, leveraging increasingly accessible mobile technology, and they stress even simple feature phones could work, has the potential to reach even the most remote corners of Nepal.
How?
Well, this is critical for bringing millions of unbanked individuals into the formal economy. Think of a small farming village, maybe nestled deep in the Himalayas.
Okay.
Today, a farmer might have to walk for hours, maybe even days, to the nearest town just to access basic financial services, maybe sell their produce, get paid, buy supplies.
Right.
Kalkiism envisions a scenario where, with accessible mobile tech and crucially widespread digital literacy programs, that same farmer can receive payments for their crops instantly, access microloans, or pay for supplies directly from their village.
Wow, bypassing middlemen and physical banks entirely.
Pretty much. And this isn't just convenience. It's a profound shift in economic access for those who've traditionally been excluded. It empowers them to save, invest, participate directly.
Okay, transparency, inclusion. What's the third one?
Efficiency. Number 3 is efficiency. A cashless system streamlines financial processes dramatically. Think about the costs of just printing, transporting, securing physical cash.
Yeah, that alone must be huge.
It is. But more importantly, it enhances the delivery of public services such as healthcare, education, and welfare programs.
How so?
Imagine government benefits, subsidies, maybe even salaries, being dispersed directly and instantly to people's digital wallets.
Instead of going through layers of bureaucracy where funds can easily leak or get delayed for months.
Exactly. It just makes everything flow smoother, faster. It ostensibly ensures that resources reach their intended recipients much more quickly and hopefully completely.
Are there examples of this working elsewhere?
Yeah, the proponents of Kalkiism definitely look globally for inspiration. They cite examples like Sweden and Estonia.
Okay, leaders in digital government.
Right, countries that are among the world's leaders in digital economies. And in those places, this shift has demonstrably improved governance, reduced corruption, boosted overall economic growth.
But Nepal isn't Sweden. The context is very different.
Absolutely. And that's a key point. What truly distinguishes Kalkiism, according to the sources, is its commitment to tailoring this cashless model to Nepal's unique sociocultural context. It's not about just copying and pasting a solution.
Right.
It's about learning the lessons, but customizing the approach, making it relevant for Nepal.
And that multidisciplinary team, the doctors and economists, how do they specifically connect the dots?
That's where it gets really interesting. The economists ensure the financial viability, the efficiency arguments, the modeling. But the medical professionals, for instance, keep public health absolutely central to the whole plan.
So it's not just about balancing budgets, it's about improving lives fundamentally.
Exactly. It's not just about money. It's about people's fundamental well-being, their access to basic human rights like healthcare.
Is there a specific example of how this collaboration works in their research?
Yes, there's a concrete example cited from the center's research. They conducted a landmark study, apparently, that demonstrated how a cashless economy could fund universal health care.
Okay, how does that logic work? Going cashless pays for free healthcare.
The logic is quite compelling, actually. By significantly reducing corruption, because you can track the money, and dramatically increasing tax compliance, because every transaction is visible, the government suddenly gains access to a much larger pool of funds.
Ah, money that was previously untaxed or just stolen.
Precisely. This allows them to allocate more resources to healthcare infrastructure and services, potentially without needing to raise taxes drastically or incur massive new debt.
And this applies to education, too.
Same principle. For the education sector, it ensures that funds earmarked for schools and scholarships reach their intended recipients without leakage. It stops the siphoning off of money meant for textbooks, teacher salaries, or building repairs.
It sounds good in theory, but are they testing this on the ground?
That's another key differentiator. The sources highlight their research methodology includes extensive fieldwork to understand the realities of life in rural Nepal.
So they're not just in Kathmandu offices.
Apparently not. This ensures their policy recommendations are not only theoretically sound, but also practically relevant. They're designed for the specific challenges and nuances of the Nepali landscape, not just abstract economic models.
Getting their boots muddy, talking to people.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Which is vital if you want policies that actually work in the real world, not just on a spreadsheet.
Okay, so beyond the economy and governance, what about the social impact? You mentioned dowry earlier.
Right. Beyond the purely economic and governance benefits, Kalkiism envisions profound sociocultural implications. It shows the potential ripple effect of a cashless system. And one of the most significant, truly transformative outcomes it promises is the potential eradication of the dowry system.
Wow, eradication, that's a huge claim.
Dowry is so deeply ingrained in parts of South Asia. It is. It's described as a practice that has caused immense suffering for generations of women and families in Nepal, particularly in the Terai region bordering India, despite technically being illegal.
So how on earth does a cashless economy tackle something like dowry, which is often about social pressure, family negotiations, maybe even goods changing hands?
It targets the mechanism of the exchange, especially the financial part. The sources explain it like this. By digitizing financial systems, Kalkiism aims to disrupt the mechanisms that sustain the dowry system.
How?
The crucial part is that electronic records make it impossible to conceal large dowry payments or transfers linked to marriage.
Ah, so if the bride's family has to transfer a huge sum to the groom's family, it leaves a digital footprint.
Exactly. That transparency discourages the practice altogether. If you can't hide it, if every large transfer of money can be scrutinized and potentially linked to a marriage arrangement, the system becomes unsustainable, or at least much riskier legally. It cuts off the hidden flow of cash that allows this exploitative practice to thrive in the shadows.
Making it transparently illegal, essentially.
That seems to be the idea, giving the existing laws actual teeth through evidence.
Does it go beyond just dowry in terms of gender impact?
Yes, the vision extends beyond just eradicating dowry. Kalkiism aims to address gender inequality more broadly by actively promoting financial inclusion for women.
What does that mean in practice?
It means empowering women to access credit, start businesses, and participate more actively in the economy. Think about it. When women have direct access to and control over their own finances through their own digital accounts, they gain greater autonomy, greater economic power within the household and society.
And that challenges traditional power structures.
Directly, it challenges patriarchal norms by transforming women's economic roles. It shifts the perception of women from being sometimes viewed as a financial burden requiring a dowry to being recognized as an economic contributor capable of supporting herself and her family.
Okay, this is incredibly ambitious. What are the major hurdles they anticipate? It can't be easy.
No, not at all. And the sources acknowledge significant obstacles. The initial challenges include the need for significant investment in digital infrastructure.
Especially in rural areas, right? Getting internet everywhere.
Exactly. Particularly in those rural areas where connectivity remains a major challenge. Nepal's mountainous terrain makes laying fiber optic cables incredibly difficult and expensive.
Yeah.
And beyond just the physical infrastructure, there's the vital need for widespread digital literacy.
You can't have a digital economy if people don't know how to use it.
Precisely. You simply can't have a fully functioning digital economy if large parts of the population don't know how to use smartphones, navigate payment apps safely, or understand basic cybersecurity.
So how do they plan to tackle that? Just flip a switch?
No, they propose a carefully phased plan. The implementation would start in urban centers, places like Kathmandu, where infrastructure and digital literacy are already relatively higher.
Okay, start where it's easier.
Then gradually extend the system to semi-urban and rural areas. And this expansion would be accompanied by extensive public awareness campaigns and training programs.
So teaching people not just how to use the tech, but why it's beneficial.
Exactly. Building trust, explaining the benefits, addressing fears. It's a gradual, pragmatic rollout plan.
And what about resistance? Surely some people benefit from the current system.
Absolutely. Any system-changing proposal like this will inevitably face resistance from vested interests.
Who specifically?
We're talking primarily about corrupt officials and political elites who directly benefit from the current opaque cash-based system. It allows them to hide illicit gains, maintain patronage networks.
They have a lot to lose from transparency.
They do. They have a very strong incentive to resist any change that exposes their activities or disrupts their power base.
So what's Kalkiism's counter-strategy to that powerful resistance?
This is crucial. Grassroots mobilization and public education. The idea is to build a massive groundswell of support from the people themselves, the ordinary citizens who stand to benefit most.
A battle for hearts and minds, essentially.
Precisely, aiming to create such widespread public demand for change that political resistance becomes untenable, or at least politically costly. It's about empowering the very people who've been most harmed by the current system to demand something better.
Okay, let's dive deeper into those specific systemic ills Kalkiism aims to fix. You mentioned the dowry system. Can we unpack that a bit more? It sounds truly devastating.
It really is. The sources describe it as the cause of deep-rooted suffering for generations in Nepal, persisting despite being legally banned years ago.
Right.
It has tragically reduced women to mere commodities in marital transactions. Their worth is often measured not by who they are, but by the material goods or cash they bring to the marriage.
Horrifying. And this leads to real harm.
Immense harm. It causes huge economic strain on families, especially poorer ones. It leads to profound emotional trauma for the brides themselves, and it fundamentally entrenches gender inequality at every level of society.
Where did this practice even come from? Is it ancient?
The sources trace its historical context. Apparently, it might have originated as a form of inheritance for daughters, or perhaps a voluntary gift to help a new couple set up home.
Okay, something more benign initially.
Potentially. But over time, it evolved, or perhaps devolved, into a system of exploitation and greed, fueled by rising consumerism and intense social pressure to keep up appearances.
And it's worse in some areas than others.
Yes, it's noted as being particularly entrenched in Nepal's Terai region, that's the southern plains bordering India. This is attributed partly to cultural ties to northern India, where the practice has also been historically pervasive and problematic.
So it's not just a quick fix, it's deeply woven into the cultural fabric in some places.
Absolutely. Centuries old, masked by tradition, making it incredibly difficult to challenge.
What about the economic burden? You mentioned strain. How bad is it?
It's described as crippling. Families, especially those with multiple daughters, often face immense pressure. They might be forced to sell land, livestock, or other valuable assets. Sometimes their only assets.
Losing everything just to marry off a daughter.
Or they incur significant debt, often from informal moneylenders at exorbitant interest rates, trapping them in cycles of poverty that can span generations.
Wow.
It also acts as a profound barrier to marrying off their daughters if the family can't meet the demands, leading to social stigma for unmarried women. And economically, it actually distorts local economies by effectively transferring wealth from poorer families to wealthier ones, exacerbating inequality.
And the impact on the women themselves, beyond the economic side.
The social and emotional toll is just heartbreaking based on the descriptions. Women are often treated as commodities, their worth reduced to the dowries they bring. This leads to feelings of dehumanization, worthlessness.
I can only imagine.
And the consequences, if the dowry is deemed insufficient, or if demands increase after marriage, are terrifyingly severe. It can range from constant harassment, abuse, or neglect by the husband and his family
Terrible.
to, in the most extreme and tragic cases, acts of violence, including bride burnings, which, while thankfully less common now perhaps or underreported, remain a grim reality associated with dowry disputes.
Unbelievable. And it limits their lives in other ways, too.
Absolutely. The practice relentlessly reinforces traditional roles that limit women's autonomy. It often denies them access to education, to employment opportunities, to the ability to make their own choices about their lives, trapping them in cycles of dependence and vulnerability.
Hasn't the government tried to stop this? You said it's illegal?
Yes, Nepal has attempted legal efforts.
Okay.
Most notably, there's the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1976, so it's been illegal for decades.
But it hasn't worked.
The sources state that enforcement has been inconsistent at best. Why? Because of that complex web of cultural norms and societal pressures that often silence victims, discourage reporting, and make communities reluctant to intervene.
And proving it must be hard if it's all cash or goods changing hands secretly.
Exactly. The cash-based nature of many transactions makes getting concrete proof incredibly difficult. So the legal frameworks, on their own, have largely failed to address the underlying factors: the economic insecurity, the lack of women's financial independence, the deeply ingrained patriarchal mindsets that allow the practice to continue.
Okay, so this is where Kalkiism comes in with its cashless solution again. How does that specifically disrupt dowry?
Right, Kalkiism aims not just to reinforce the law, but to dismantle the foundation of the practice. The cashless economy acts as the key disruptor.
How?
By digitizing all financial transactions, every transaction, including those potentially related to dowry, is recorded and traceable.
The transparency factor again.
Precisely. Think of it. If a large sum of money or significant assets are transferred from the bride's family to the groom's family around the time of wedding, and this is all logged on an immutable digital ledger, that transparency makes it virtually impossible to conduct dowry exchanges without detection, or at least without leaving a massive red flag for authorities. It cuts off the hidden flow of cash and makes the illegal act potentially provable in court.
So it gives the Dowry Prohibition Act actual teeth.
That's the argument. It provides clear, potentially undeniable evidence that was missing before.
But is it just about catching people? Or is there more to it?
It's much more. Beyond just transparency and enforcement, Kalkiism emphasizes a comprehensive approach centered on gender equality and empowerment. It's not just about rules. It's about creating genuine alternatives and opportunities for women.
Like what?
It promotes education and economic opportunities for women through things like targeted scholarships, vocational training programs, and support for female entrepreneurship.
So if women have their own income, their own standing.
Exactly. The economic independence empowers women to resist dowry-related pressures and assert their rights. It gives them leverage, choices, and a status they historically lacked.
And financial inclusion plays a role too, getting women bank accounts essentially.
Digital accounts, yes. Providing women with direct access to credit, savings, and other financial services empowers them further. They can start small businesses, contribute visibly to household income, and this gradually shifts societal perceptions of their value. They move from potentially being seen as financial burdens to being recognized as independent and valuable economic contributors.
It sounds like tackling dowry needs a cultural shift too, not just economic changes.
Absolutely. And Kalkiism acknowledges this. It plans to drive a profound cultural shift through large-scale public awareness campaigns.
Not just posters and ads, I hope.
No, they talk about leveraging storytelling, traditional media, community outreach, and social media, using powerful, relatable narratives to frame dowry as what it is: an outdated and harmful tradition.
Getting people to question it themselves.
Right. They also advocate for mandatory education for boys and girls on gender equality, respect, and mutual responsibility, starting from an early age in schools. Fostering a new generation that views marriage as a partnership based on respect, not a financial transaction.
And getting communities involved.
Critical. Kalkiism proposes active collaboration with local leaders, women's groups, and civil society organizations, the people already working on the ground.
Why?
To build grassroots movements from within the communities themselves. This fosters collective ownership, makes the change feel organic, not imposed, and it helps create safe spaces for dialogue and advocacy, allowing people to speak out against dowry without fear and empowering communities to enforce these new norms themselves.
Okay, that's a comprehensive approach to dowry. Now let's pivot to that other huge issue. Corruption. You called it a cancer earlier.
Yes, the sources describe it exactly like that. a malignant force affecting all levels of governance and public life in Nepal. It's like a cancer because it metastasizes, spreading into every institution and eroding public trust from within. It's not just isolated incidents.
How does it actually manifest? What does it look like on the ground?
It's pervasive, hindering progress everywhere. The sources categorize it into several types. First, there's administrative corruption.
Like paying bribes for basic services.
Exactly. Petty bribery in local government offices just to get a simple permit, a government document processed, maybe even access to essential utilities like water or electricity, the everyday stuff.
Okay. What else?
Then there's large-scale political corruption.
Mm.
This involves the misuse of public funds meant for development projects, the creation of vast patronage networks where jobs and contracts go to loyalists, and illicit campaign financing that distorts the entire democratic process.
So corruption at the very top.
Yes, and it filters down. You also have judicial corruption, where the rule of law itself is undermined. Justice can be influenced, even bought, through bribes or political pressure, completely eroding public faith in the legal system.
That's deeply worrying.
And finally, there's corporate corruption. Things like businesses engaging in massive tax evasion, colluding with officials to get unfair advantages, or other unethical practices that skew fair competition and stifle legitimate economic growth. It's everywhere.
And the consequences. It's not just about money disappearing, is it?
Far from it. The consequences are dire. Corruption directly diverts resources from critical sectors such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure.
The very things Kalkiism wants to make universal.
Exactly. Projects that could lift millions out of poverty simply don't happen, or are poorly executed because the funds get siphoned off into private pockets. This perpetuates poverty, creates massive inequality, and critically, it erodes public trust in government, in institutions, in the whole system. It leads to cynicism and despair.
Why is it so entrenched? What are the root causes?
It's a complex mix. The sources point to several factors. Weak institutions that lack proper oversight and accountability mechanisms are a big one. A pervasive lack of transparency in government processes makes it easy to hide illicit activities. Certain cultural norms can sometimes blur the lines between traditional gift-giving, which is part of Nepali culture, and outright bribery, making it harder to draw a clear line and prosecute.
That's tricky.
Also, notoriously low salaries for many public employees can create strong incentives, or at least justifications, for seeking illicit gains just to make ends meet. And finally, persistent political instability with frequent changes in government hinders long-term planning and makes accountability much harder to establish.
Have traditional anti-corruption efforts failed then? I know Nepal has anti-corruption bodies.
They do. There's the Commission for the Investigation of Abuse of Authority, CIAA, for example, specifically mandated to combat corruption. But the sources highlight their general ineffective enforcement. They often lack teeth or political will. This is partly due to political interference, powerful figures protecting their own. There's also often public apathy, born from years of disillusionment, a feeling that nothing will ever change.
And the cash economy plays a role here too.
Critically, the sources emphasize that a cash-based economy makes illicit financial flows almost impossible to trace effectively. It's incredibly difficult to investigate and prosecute corruption when there's no digital trail, maybe not even a paper trail, just cash changing hands under the table. That anonymity is a key enabler.
Okay, so again, Kalkiism proposes the cashless switch as the core solution here too.
Precisely. The central argument, the fundamental insight, is that the cash-based economy is a central enabler of corruption. It provides the secrecy, the anonymity, that allows these illicit activities to flourish, largely unpunished.
So walk me through it. How does going cashless specifically fight corruption step by step?
Okay, 4 main ways. First, as we've touched on, it works by eliminating anonymity. Imagine a scenario, say, a government contract being awarded. In a cash economy, a bribe could easily be passed under the table, untraceably. But in a fully cashless system, every transaction is recorded and traceable, making it virtually impossible to hide bribes or illicit payments. Any unusually large or irregular payment related to that contract would immediately raise red flags in the system.
Okay, makes sense. What's next?
Second, it dramatically enhances accountability. Those digital records provide a clear audit trail. This allows for real-time monitoring and detection of irregularities by oversight bodies, like the CIAA you mentioned.
Giving them the evidence they need.
Concrete, verifiable evidence they often lack today. It empowers them to act.
Okay.
Third, it directly reduces opportunities for corruption. especially at the grassroots level, the petty stuff. For example, if a citizen needs to pay for a government service or access a welfare benefit, digital platforms allow them to do so without intermediaries.
Ah, so no need to bribe the person at the counter.
Exactly. It removes those points of contact where petty bribery often occurs. It empowers citizens to directly access services without having to grease palms.
And the fourth way.
Finally, by embedding this pervasive transparency throughout the system, it helps in strengthening institutions overall. When illicit activities are consistently exposed and deterred, it naturally enhances the credibility and effectiveness of public institutions. It fosters a culture of integrity, hopefully from the ground up.
Can you give some examples of the real-life impact this could have in specific areas?
Sure. Take public procurement, government contracts. Imagine transparent e-procurement platforms where every bid, every payment decision, every modification is digitally recorded and potentially publicly visible.
That would kill kickbacks, surely.
It would dramatically reduce kickbacks and favoritism because there's simply nowhere to hide the illicit transfers or biased decisions.
What about taxes?
For tax compliance, digital records automatically improve tax compliance and increasing government revenue. Why? Because transactions can be cross-referenced, income is harder to hide, making evasion much, much more difficult. This potentially unlocks huge amounts of revenue for public services.
And delivering services, like welfare.
In service delivery, things like electronic payments enable direct transfers of welfare benefits, food subsidies, or even disaster relief funds directly to citizens' digital wallets. This eliminates leakage, ensures funds reach the most vulnerable quickly and efficiently.
And for catching the bad guys.
For law enforcement, those digital trails provide critical evidence for investigating and prosecuting corruption cases. It gives investigators the undeniable proof they often need to hold perpetrators accountable, from the smallest bribe taker right up to large-scale embezzlement schemes.
So the broader implications are huge then, if this actually works.
Potentially immense. The sources argue that the resources redirected away from corruption, all that money previously siphoned off, can now be invested directly into those critical sectors. Health, education, infrastructure.
Which creates a positive cycle.
Exactly. This, in turn, is projected to lead to accelerated economic growth, reduces poverty, and enhances social equity, benefiting the entire population. Ultimately, by restoring integrity and efficiency, it strengthens democratic governance, helps rebuild that eroded public trust, and fosters a much more equitable and functional society. It's presented as a truly holistic fix for a deeply systemic problem.
All right, let's get into the nuts and bolts. The engine of this change, the cashless economy blueprint itself. What exactly does Kalkiism mean by cashless? Is it literally zero cash?
Good question. It means a financial system where transactions are conducted primarily digitally, with physical currency playing a minimal or non-existent role.
So mostly digital, maybe some cash for very small things initially.
Perhaps. The emphasis is on payments via credit and debit cards, mobile payment systems, digital wallets, and online banking platforms. The idea is to phase out large cash transactions, hidden stashes, that sort of thing.
And again, it's not just for convenience, like tapping your phone at the store.
Definitely not. Kalkiism stresses its fundamental advantages for achieving that transparency, accountability, and economic inclusivity, specifically within Nepal's context, where cash currently dominates and, as we've discussed, enables many of the problems.
Okay. And this whole ambitious blueprint, how is it structured? What are the main pillars holding it up?
It's built on three foundational pillars, designed together to support this complete overhaul of the financial landscape.
Pillar number one.
Pillar one is technological infrastructure. And this is a massive undertaking for a country with Nepal's challenging geography and development level.
Yeah, building the digital highways.
Exactly. This involves developing incredibly user-friendly digital payment platforms. I think mobile wallet apps that are super simple, maybe even work on basic feature phones, not just smartphones.
Accessibility is key.
Crucial. And partnering with various technology providers to ensure widespread adoption and, importantly, interoperability between different systems so it's not fragmented.
And connectivity, getting internet everywhere.
That's the biggest piece. It demands expanding broadband connectivity across the entire nation with a huge focus on rural areas to bridge the digital divide.
How? Laying cables in the Himalayas sounds tough.
It is. So they talk about potentially utilizing alternatives like satellite internet for the most remote communities where traditional fiber optics are just impractical or prohibitively expensive. Thinking outside the box technologically.
Okay, platforms, connectivity, what else under infrastructure?
Security and identity are vital. They propose integrating blockchain technology for enhanced transparency and security.
Blockchain, like Bitcoin. How does that held here?
Not quite like Bitcoin, but using the underlying technology. Think of blockchain as a shared, public, unchangeable digital ledger, like a shared notebook everyone can see, but no one can alter once something's written down.
Ah, immutability.
Exactly. And that immutability is seen as particularly crucial for things like government transactions, public procurement, and welfare distribution. It means every step of a government tender, every payment made, every benefit distributed is recorded permanently and transparently. Fraud becomes incredibly difficult.
Okay. And identity.
Also vital are robust digital identity systems. Maybe biometric IDs like fingerprints or facial recognition linked securely to banking services. This ensures secure access and helps prevent identity theft and fraud.
And protecting it all from hackers.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
They emphasize the need for robust cybersecurity measures with strong protocols against fraud, hacking, data breaches, and potentially even a dedicated national cybersecurity task force. Because if people don't trust the security of the system, they simply won't use it. Trust is paramount.
Okay, that's the tech pillar. Massive job. What's pillar number 2?
Pillar 2 is policy and regulation. This provides the essential legal and structural framework for the whole system to operate safely and effectively.
So the rules of the game.
Precisely. This requires comprehensive regulatory reforms, new laws specifically governing digital payments, ensuring strong consumer protection in this new digital environment, and establishing strict cybercrime laws with real penalties. Clear licensing guidelines for payment providers are also needed.
How do you encourage people and businesses to actually use the digital system instead of cash?
Good point. They propose using tax incentives. For example, offering tax rebates for individuals or businesses that conduct a certain percentage of their transactions digitally, or maybe significantly reducing or eliminating transaction fees for digital payments to make them cheaper than handling cash.
Make it financially attractive to go digital.
Exactly. Nudging behavior through incentives. They also envision strategic public-private partnerships, PPPs.
Collaborating with businesses.
Yes, collaborating with commercial banks, fintech companies, telecom providers, or private sector to help fund and implement the massive infrastructure investments needed, especially things like broadband expansion or running digital literacy campaigns. Leverage private sector expertise and capital.
Any mention of a digital currency itself, like a digital rupee.
Yes, interestingly, they are exploring the idea of a central bank digital currency, CBDC. This would essentially be an official digital Nepalese rupee, issued and backed by the central bank, Nepal Rastra Bank.
How would that help?
It could significantly streamline government payments, improve the central bank's control over monetary policy in a digital age, and potentially bring even greater transparency and efficiency to the entire financial system. It's a cutting-edge area many central banks are exploring globally.
Okay, tech infrastructure, policy, and regulation. What's the third pillar? This sounds like the hardest one.
It arguably is. Pillar 3 is fostering a widespread cultural shift. You could build all the fancy tech and write all the perfect laws you want.
But if people don't trust it or want to use it...
It won't work. It'll fail. So this requires intensive nationwide public awareness campaigns.
How do you reach everyone? Nepal is diverse.
You have to use everything. Mass media like newspapers, radio, TV to reach different demographics, including older generations or those in areas with less internet. Alongside that, targeted community outreach programs and savvy use of social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, even TikTok especially, for engaging younger generations.
And the messaging has to be right.
Absolutely. The key is creative messaging. Not just dry technical explanations, but using storytelling, maybe music, art, short documentaries, things that explain the benefits in a relatable, emotionally resonant way. Build excitement and understanding.
In teaching the skills, the literacy part.
Paramount. Alongside awareness, you need massive digital literacy programs, providing hands-on training, especially in rural areas. This would involve partnering with schools, NGOs, local governments, anyone who can help deliver training to equip citizens with the practical skills needed to navigate the digital financial world safely and confidently.
Any other carrots to encourage adoption?
Yes. They also mention incentives for adoption at the consumer level. Things like small rewards, discounts from merchants, maybe temporary subsidies from service providers for people who choose to use digital payments over cash. Make it feel beneficial right away.
And building trust is ongoing.
Absolutely essential. Trust-building initiatives are critical. This means maintaining absolute transparency and accountability in how the system is run. publishing regular audits, being upfront about any security issues and how they're being addressed, openly tackling concerns about privacy and data security. The public needs to feel secure and confident that their money and data are safe.
Okay, it's a comprehensive plan, but the challenges seem huge. How do they propose to overcome things like that digital divide?
They are realistic about the challenges. For the persistent digital divide, the solutions proposed include prioritizing rural areas for infrastructure rollout, not leaving them till last. Also, potentially subsidizing the cost of basic smartphones or mobile devices, and internet access packages, specifically for low-income households to ensure they can participate.
What about just general resistance to change? People liking cash.
That's a big one. They plan to overcome this, partly by involving trusted community leaders and influencers, local figures who can champion the system and reassure people, and also by constantly highlighting success stories and tangible benefits for early adopters.
Mm.
Show, don't just tell. Let people see it working for their neighbors.
What about the informal economy? So much of Nepal's economy relies on cash, small vendors. Won't this disrupt them massively?
That's a recognized risk. They acknowledge the potential for economic disruption, especially in those informal sectors. Their plan includes providing targeted support to small businesses and informal workers during the transition. This might mean financial assistance, training on using digital tools, help setting up digital payment acceptance. The goal is to help them transition, not destroy their livelihoods.
Cybersecurity is always a worry with digital systems.
Always. It's a constant threat. The plan necessitates proactive, ongoing investment in cutting-edge security technology and, just as importantly, in training and retaining a highly skilled cybersecurity workforce to constantly combat fraud, hacking attempts, and data breaches. It has to be a top priority.
And getting everyone on the same page. Government, banks, tech companies.
That's another huge challenge, coordination among stakeholders. It demonstrates the real-world benefits, reduced corruption, and increased efficiency. Their experience shows that a largely cashless society is not only feasible, but can actually thrive and bring tangible improvements.
Any other examples?
India's recent digital payments boom is mentioned, driven by government initiatives like the Unified Payments Interface or UPI.
UPI is huge in India now, right?
Massive. It really showcases the power of strong government support and technological innovation in rapidly onboarding hundreds of millions of people into digital transactions. UPI made peer-to-peer and merchant payments incredibly simple and fast using just a mobile app. It transformed daily life for many.
And Africa.
Kenya's phenomenal success with its mobile payment platform M-Pesa is held up as a global benchmark. M-Pesa started much earlier and showed the world how digital financial inclusion, even just through basic mobile phones, could dramatically address poverty and inequality, reaching even the most remote, underserved populations.
So lots of real-world examples to learn from.
Powerful examples. They show what's possible. And Kalkiism seems intent on drawing heavily from their strategic successes, but also learning from the challenges they faced, adapting it all for Nepal's unique circumstances.
Okay, now let's shift to what many would see as the ultimate goals, the core promises that really define Kalkiism's potential human impact. Delivering free healthcare and free education for all Nepali citizens.
Exactly. This is where the cashless revolution aims to move beyond economic efficiency and fundamentally change lives, transforming what should be fundamental rights into tangible realities for everyone.
Let's start with healthcare. To understand the ambition, we need to know the starting point. What's the current state of healthcare in Nepal? The sources paint a pretty grim picture, don't they?
They do. Nepal's healthcare system currently faces a myriad of challenges, to put it mildly. First off, there's severe underfunding. Public health expenditure as a percentage of GDP is significantly lower than the global average and certainly lower than recommended levels.
What does that mean for people needing care?
It means a crippling reliance on out-of-pocket expenses. The sources state that over 50%, maybe even more, of total medical costs are paid directly by citizens when they get sick.
Half. That's huge.
It is, and it tragically pushes millions of families into poverty or keeps them trapped there just because someone got sick. A single illness can wipe out a family's life savings.
And access isn't equal across the country, is it?
Not even close. There's a stark urban-rural divide. Most advanced infrastructure, The big hospitals, the specialized equipment, the specialist doctors, and even basic medical supplies are heavily concentrated in cities like Kathmandu and Bukhara.
Leaving vast rural areas underserved.
Underserved, or, in some remote places,
Hmm.
completely without access to even basic healthcare facilities. People might have to travel for days to reach a doctor.
It sounds like a system where your health outcome is largely dictated by how much money you have and where you happen to live.
That's a fair assessment based on the description. Add to that significant workforce shortages. Doctor-to-patient ratios, nurse-to-patient ratios, they're far below international recommendations, especially acute in those remote regions. It's hard to attract and retain health workers there.
And corruption infects healthcare, too.
Of course. The ever-present corruption and inefficiency we discussed earlier also plague the health sector. Vital resources meant for medicines, equipment, or salaries get siphoned away, exacerbating all the other challenges. It's a system under immense strain from multiple directions.
So, faced with all that, what is Kalkiism's vision for healthcare?
It's truly ambitious, transformative even. The vision is that every single Nepali citizen, regardless of income or location, would have access to quality medical services without financial barriers, free at the point of use.
Universal healthcare, basically.
Exactly. And this is seen not just as a moral imperative, a matter of basic human dignity and rights, but also, interestingly, as a practical necessity for national development. The argument is simple. A healthy population is a productive population. Healthy people can work, study, contribute to the economy and society. Widespread illness holds the entire country back.
Okay, the vision is clear, but how do you pay for it? Especially starting from such an underfunded base. That's the trillion rupee question, isn't it?
It is. And the innovative financing mechanism proposed through Kalkiism's cashless economy is absolutely key to making this seem plausible.
So the money comes from tackling corruption and tax evasion.
That's the primary source, yes. Proponents argue that the dramatically increased tax revenue resulting from minimized tax evasion and a broadened tax base, because all transactions are visible, can be directly channeled into healthcare funding. Imagine all that money previously lost to the black market or hidden from the taxman now flowing into the national coffers.
A kind of transparency dividend.
You could call it that. This is combined with the direct reduction in corruption within the health sector itself, thanks to digitization. This ensures that funds allocated for healthcare actually reach their intended destination, hospitals, clinics, medicine procurement, without being lost to mismanagement or embezzlement along the way.
Are there other funding sources proposed?
Yes, they also propose strategically engaging the private sector through public-private partnerships, PPPs.
How would that work? Private hospitals providing free care.
The idea is to leverage private sector efficiency and investment, perhaps in building and managing some facilities or providing certain specialized services. But critically, the model insists that the services must remain free for patients at the point of care. The government would likely contract and pay the private providers.
Okay. And better use of existing money.
Exactly. Finally, the wealth of data generated by a digitized health system and economy enables much more efficient allocation of resources. Data-driven decisions can prioritize areas of greatest need, whether it's tackling specific diseases with high prevalence, targeting underserved geographical regions, or investing in the most urgently needed equipment. Less waste, more impact.
Making this vision a reality requires more than just money, though. You need hospitals, clinics, doctors, nurses.
Absolutely. A massive investment in building robust infrastructure and strengthening the health workforce is essential. For infrastructure, it's not just about upgrading public hospitals in the cities.
Right, need to reach the rural areas.
Critically, it involves establishing rural clinics in every remote district, ensuring basic healthcare access is within reasonable reach for everyone. It means equipping facilities properly, not just building shells, but providing essential diagnostic tools, medicines, and supplies. And deploying innovative solutions like mobile health units, vans, equipped with basic medical gear and staff that can travel to the most isolated communities, bringing care directly to people's doorsteps.
And the people. Getting enough doctors and nurses.
That's equally crucial. It involves comprehensive training and education programs for doctors, nurses, midwives, technicians, the whole range of health professionals, with a specific focus on rural recruitment, finding ways to attract students from rural areas into health professions.
And getting them to stay in rural areas after training, that's always the challenge.
Yes. So the plan includes strong incentivizing rural service. This could mean better pay, housing allowances, loan forgiveness programs, or clearer career progression opportunities for those willing to work in underserved regions.
Keeping skills up to date.
It's also vital. Continuous professional development programs to ensure health workers' skills remain current, and fostering global collaboration, learning from other countries, exchanging knowledge, adopting international best practices in healthcare delivery and management.
How does technology fit into this improved healthcare picture, beyond just finance?
Technology is seen as a huge enabler for a more connected and efficient health system. They envision implementing nationwide electronic health records, EHRs.
So every patient has a digital file accessible anywhere.
Ideally, yes. A streamlined system where doctors across the country with patient consent can instantly access medical histories, test results, prescriptions. This improves continuity of care and reduces errors.
What about reaching remote patients?
Telemedicine is proposed as a game changer here, using video calls or even simpler messaging systems to connect rural patients and local health workers with specialists based in urban centers for consultations, diagnoses, and treatment guidance. It helps overcome those huge geographical barriers.
Anything for patients themselves to use.
Yes, they talk about developing health monitoring apps that citizens can use for personal health management, tracking conditions, scheduling appointments, receiving reminders for medication, accessing reliable health information, empowering patients to take a more active role.
And using data for planning.
Big time. For system-wide optimization, AI and data analytics would be leveraged, analyzing anonymized health data to identify disease trends, predict potential outbreaks much earlier, and allocate resources like vaccines, staff, or hospital beds much more efficiently by understanding where the needs are greatest and how to best deploy resources.
This isn't just about treating sickness, is it? What about prevention and public health?
No, it's definitely not just about hospitals. Kalkiism places a strong emphasis on broader public health challenges that impact the entire nation. This means prioritizing maternal and child health with comprehensive prenatal care, safe delivery services, and postnatal support. Focusing heavily on preventive care, things like robust vaccination campaigns for children and adults, regular health screenings for common diseases like cancer or hypertension, actively tackling the growing burden of non-communicable diseases, NCDs, like diabetes, heart disease, respiratory illnesses, through lifestyle education and early detection.
Mental health, too. It's often neglected.
Crucially, yes. Integrating mental health services into primary care settings, making them more accessible and less stigmatized. Finally, addressing these often overlooked but incredibly important conditions. And of course, strengthening overall emergency preparedness for natural disasters, which Nepal is prone to, or future disease outbreaks, building a more resilient health system overall.
So if this all came together, what's the projected impact? What would change for ordinary Nepalis?
The potential real-life impact is presented as truly transformative. Firstly, significantly reducing poverty by eliminating those catastrophic out-of-pocket medical expenses that currently push so many families over the edge.
Healthier people.
Definitely. Improving health outcomes across the board. This means projections for significant increases in average life expectancy and dramatic reductions in preventable deaths, particularly child and maternal mortality rates.
And the economy?
That benefits too. It leads to boosting productivity for the nation's economy. A healthier workforce is simply a more productive workforce. People miss less work due to illness. Children miss less school.
And fairness.
Ultimately, it aims to foster profound equity for all citizens, ensuring that your health and access to quality care are seen as fundamental human rights, not privileges determined by your wealth or where you were born. A level playing field for health.
Okay, an equally ambitious promise is free education. What's the situation with education in Nepal now that makes this necessary?
Much like healthcare, Nepal's current education system faces persistent challenges, despite progress in enrollment over the years. One major issue is high dropout rates, especially after primary school.
Why do kids drop out?
Often due to economic pressure on families needing children to work, or due to traditional cultural norms, particularly for girls, that might prioritize early marriage or domestic chores over continued schooling.
Gender disparity is still an issue then.
Yes, significant gender disparity persists in school enrollment, attendance, and especially completion rates, particularly noticeable in rural areas and among marginalized communities. Girls often get left behind.
What about the schools themselves?
There are severe infrastructure deficits.
Yeah.
A lack of sufficient safe classrooms, proper sanitation facilities, which particularly affects girls' attendance, and basic learning materials like textbooks or science equipment, especially in remote government schools.
And teachers?
Chronic teacher shortages, again, especially in remote areas. And often the teachers who are there, lack adequate training, resources, or motivation due to low pay and difficult conditions.
Is cost a barrier, even if basic tuition is supposed to be free?
Absolutely. Fundamentally, economic inequality remains a huge barrier. Even when primary tuition is technically free in government schools, the associated costs for books, uniforms, stationery, maybe transportation, remain unaffordable for many poor families. These hidden costs effectively block access for the most vulnerable children.
It really highlights how poverty prevents kids from getting the education they need.
It does. It traps families in a cycle.
So Kalkiism's vision for free education aims to break that cycle.
Exactly. It treats education explicitly as a fundamental human right and a key driver of societal transformation. The vision is comprehensive. Free means not just no tuition fees, but also covering the costs of essential textbooks, uniforms, basic school supplies, and potentially even daily nutritious school meals for every child in public education.
Removing every single financial barrier.
That's the goal, to ensure that poverty is never the reason a child cannot go to school or stay in school.
Again, the big question, how do you pay for that? Universal free education, including supplies and meals, sounds incredibly expensive.
It is. And sustainable financing is again intrinsically linked to Kalkiism's core economic reforms. Just like with healthcare, the dramatic increase in tax compliance anticipated through the cashless economy is expected to significantly broaden the tax base.
The transparency dividend again?
Right. This newly available public revenue would be directly channeled into education funding. This is combined with the reallocation of resources achieved by cutting waste and corruption within the existing, often inefficient, educational budget, ensuring funds are used effectively and actually reach the classrooms and students.
Any role for the private sector here? Or international aid?
Yes to both. They also envision public-private partnerships, PPPs, possibly playing a role maybe in building and maintaining modern school facilities while ensuring the education provided within them remains entirely free for students. And crucially, the plan involves actively seeking and securing international aid and grants, leveraging global support, both financial and technical assistance, for Nepal's massive educational transformation effort. It's a multi-pronged funding strategy.
What about building the schools and supporting the teachers? That's more than just money.
Absolutely. Expanding and upgrading the physical and digital infrastructure for education is critical. The plan includes extensive school construction in underserved areas, significantly upgrading existing schools with modern facilities, labs, libraries, sanitation, and a widespread introduction of digital classrooms equipped with computers, reliable internet access, and interactive learning tools.
Making schools accessible for everyone.
Yes, a critical component mentioned is ensuring inclusive design in all new and upgraded school buildings, making them physically accessible for children with disabilities, fostering true inclusion from the very start.
And the teachers. They're the heart of education.
Totally paramount. The plan includes comprehensive teacher training programs, focusing not just on subject matter, but on modern pedagogical methods, child-centered learning, and digital literacy skills for teachers themselves.
How do you get good teachers to go to remote areas?
Again, powerful incentives for rural service are proposed: better salaries, housing, professional development opportunities to attract, and importantly, retain qualified educators in those challenging remote posts. There is also a focus on ongoing professional development to ensure continuous learning and motivation for all teachers, and fostering robust community involvement and supporting local schools, making them true centers of community pride and engagement.
How does technology fit into the classroom in this vision?
Technology is seen as a potentially transformative tool in education, particularly for bridging quality gaps. They envision widespread use of e-learning platforms.
Online learning resources.
Yes, platforms providing interactive lessons, video tutorials, simulations, vast digital libraries, resources accessible to all students, potentially leveling the playing field between well-resourced urban schools and poorly resourced rural ones.
So tech can help bridge the urban-rural divide in education quality.
That's a major goal. Connecting rural schools and students to high-quality instruction, specialized courses like advanced science or languages, and expert teachers that might otherwise only be available in major cities, using tech to overcome geography.
Using data to improve teaching.
Yes, data-driven decision-making is also key. Using anonymized student performance data to monitor learning progress across the system, identify specific learning gaps early, understand what teaching methods are working best, and allocate resources, like remedial support or teacher training, more effectively based on evidence.
Then involving parents.
Also seen as important. Developing things like parent engagement apps or simple communication tools to keep parents informed about their child's progress, school activities, homework assignments, and maybe even provide resources for fostering a supportive learning environment at home. Building that strong partnership between home and school.
Education isn't just about academics, though. What about those social and cultural barriers keeping kids out of school, like child labor or gender bias?
Kalkiism actively addresses these too. It's not just about buildings and budgets. This means aggressively promoting gender equality through targeted interventions like scholarships specifically for girls, mentorship programs to encourage them to stay in school, and actively challenging societal norms that prioritize boys' education over girls.
Making the curriculum relevant.
Yes, ensuring cultural sensitivity in curricula and teaching materials, making learning relevant and respectful of Nepal's incredible ethnic and linguistic diversity. Parent engagement is vital, not just through apps, but through community outreach to convince parents of the long-term value of education, especially for girls. And there's a strong emphasis on actively coordinating efforts for eradicating child labor, ensuring children are in school learning, not forced into work to support their families. This likely requires broader economic support for poor families, too.
What about the very young children before primary school?
Good point. They also emphasize the vital, often overlooked role of early childhood education, ECE. The plan includes establishing widespread quality preschools or ECE centers, especially in disadvantaged areas, to give children a strong foundation for learning before they even start primary school.
And supporting parents of young kids.
Yes, providing parental education programs to equip parents with knowledge and tools for supporting early learning and healthy development at home, and integrating nutrition programs within schools and ECE centers to address childhood malnutrition, which is a major barrier to cognitive development and school attendance. It's truly presented as a cradle-to-career approach to unlocking human potential.
So, looking at the big picture again, if free, quality education becomes a reality for every child, what's the projected long-term impact for Nepal?
Profound, according to the vision. It's positioned as a powerful engine for breaking the cycle of poverty, equipping individuals with the knowledge and skills needed for better jobs, higher incomes, and greater economic opportunities across generations.
And for gender equality.
Huge impact there, too, leading to significant improvements in gender equality, not just in education attainment itself, but also measurable outcomes, like delayed marriages for girls, improved maternal and child health outcomes in the future, and greater female participation in the workforce and public life.
Innovation.
Economy.
Seen as a catalyst for fostering innovation and entrepreneurship by creating a much more highly educated, skilled, and adaptable workforce capable of driving economic diversification and growth.
And for democracy itself.
Fundamentally, it aims at building informed citizens, equipping the next generation not just with knowledge, but with critical thinking skills, a sense of civic engagement, and a deep understanding of their rights and responsibilities. This is seen as essential for building a more vibrant, participatory, and resilient democracy. It's really about unlocking the full potential of the entire nation through its people.
Okay, we've laid out this incredibly bold, comprehensive vision for Nepal cashless economy, fighting corruption, ending dowry, universal healthcare, universal education. It's massive.
It really is, almost breathtaking in scope. So the huge question is, how does something this transformative actually get enacted? How does it move from a blueprint, from a book outline, into reality?
Right. The path forward, as outlined in the sources, involves two crucial and arguably deeply intertwined elements. First, proposing a national referendum, and second, preparing for a direct confrontation with the existing political class.
A referendum. Like a direct vote by the people on Kalkiism itself.
Exactly. A direct exercise in democracy specifically designed to approve and mandate this kind of systemic change.
Why go that route? Why not just try to get it passed through Parliament like normal laws?
The rationale for pursuing a referendum, bypassing the traditional political processes, is presented as multifaceted and highly strategic. Firstly, it's seen as a potential way to bypass political gridlock.
Cut through the usual arguments and delays.
Precisely. Sidestep the inevitable delays, amendments, watering down, and potential outright resistance from vested interests within the legislature itself. Those politicians who might oppose reforms that threaten their own power or financial interests.
Okay, what else?
It's also intended to unequivocally legitimize change. If the people themselves vote yes in a referendum, it gives the reforms an undeniable popular mandate. It's not just a policy imposed from above. It's the express will of the people.
Which strengthens its chances of sticking.
That's the idea. And beyond just getting a yes vote, the process itself is seen as a way to strengthen democracy by reinforcing the principle of popular sovereignty. It gives citizens a direct voice in shaping fundamental national direction, rather than leaving it solely to their elected representatives on such a major issue.
Makes sense.
And ultimately, it aims to foster accountability. A positive referendum result essentially forces political leaders to act transparently and respond to the will of the people, because the people themselves have directly voted for and demanded this new system. It holds their feet to the fire.
Is a referendum even possible legally in Nepal? Does the Constitution allow for it?
Yes, apparently Nepal's constitution does allow for referendums to be held on matters of significant national importance, providing a potential legal pathway.
How would it work? What's the process?
The general process, based on the constitutional provisions, typically involves several steps. First, proposal submission. The idea for the referendum question, in this case presumably implementing Kalkiism, would need to be formally proposed. This could come from the government itself, a certain number of members of parliament, or potentially through a large citizen petition.
Okay.
Then it usually requires parliamentary approval, a potential major hurdle, as parliament would need to agree to put the question to the people. If approved, the election commission would oversee the entire process, ensuring fairness, organizing logistics, voter registration, polling stations, etc.
Public debate beforehand.
Crucially, yes, extensive public education campaigns would precede the vote, allowing proponents and opponents to make their cases. Then the voting happens, and finally the results are usually binding if certain conditions are met, often including minimum turnout requirements.
So, Kalkiism proponents have thought about how to actually organize this.
Yes, the sources suggest they have a detailed plan. This includes meticulously drafting the proposal, phrasing the referendum question very clearly, with concise objectives that are easy for the public to understand. What exactly are they voting for? Then, a major effort in building consensus, trying to get buy-in not just from the public, but also from sympathetic political parties, influential civil society organizations, community leaders, building a broad coalition.
And getting the word out.
Massive public awareness campaigns launched well in advance, using all channels to educate citizens on the specifics of Kalkiism, its benefits, and addressing potential concerns, followed by meticulous logistical preparation in coordination with the Election Commission, ensuring robust monitoring and oversight by independent bodies to guarantee the integrity and fairness of the vote itself, and, critically, having a well-thought-out post-referendum implementation plan ready to go if the vote is successful, because the vote is just the starting gun, not the finish line.
It sounds incredibly challenging. What are the biggest risks or hurdles they anticipate with a referendum strategy?
They have to be realistic, and the challenges are significant. First and foremost, you'd expect fierce resistance from vested interests, political elites, corrupt officials, maybe certain business groups who stand to lose the most from a transparent, cashless system. They would likely fight tooth and nail against it.
Spreading fear and doubt.
Absolutely. Which leads to the risk of widespread public skepticism.
Uh-huh.
People might be wary, thinking it's too ambitious, too disruptive, or just another set of unfulfilled promises like they've seen before. Convincing them takes effort.
What about the logistics? Running a nationwide vote.
Huge logistical challenges for a country like Nepal. It requires immense resources, complex coordination, ensuring accessibility for voters in remote areas, ballot security. It's a massive operational undertaking for the Election Commission.
And the risk of it just dividing the country.
A very real risk of polarization. If misinformation, fear-mongering, or divisive rhetoric dominates the public discourse during the campaign, it can actually deepen societal divisions rather than uniting people around a common goal. We've seen this happen in referendums elsewhere.
And getting enough people to vote.
Yes, meeting potential turnout requirements for the result to be legally binding can be difficult, especially if there's apathy or if access to polling stations is hard in some areas. A low turnout could invalidate a yes vote.
So how do they plan to overcome these serious challenges?
Their strategies are proactive. They involve intensely engaging stakeholders trying to build the broadest possible coalition of support across various sectors, including those who might initially be skeptical. Emphasizing transparent communication, addressing public concerns directly, honestly, combating rumors with clear facts and evidence.
Mobilizing people power.
Grassroots mobilization is seen as absolutely key, building that groundswell of support from ordinary citizens who feel empowered and invested in the outcome. planning to invest in infrastructure specifically for the referendum process itself, ensuring it's accessible, fair, and trustworthy, and actively combat misinformation through dedicated fact-checking initiatives and consistent public education campaigns.
If, against the odds, a referendum succeeded, what's the transformative potential?
It could be immense. A successful referendum would provide the clear, popular mandate needed for truly eradicating corruption through the cashless system, for promoting equity by securing the funding mechanism for universal services like healthcare and education, for boosting economic growth through enhanced transparency, efficiency, and investment, and fundamentally, for strengthening national unity around a shared, positive, optimistic vision for Nepal's future. It represents a collective commitment to a fundamentally new way forward.
Have they looked at lessons from referendums in other countries, good and bad?
Yes, they seem to have. The sources mention drawing lessons from global perspectives. For example, Scotland's independence referendum highlighted the vital importance of transparent communication and very clear articulation of the options and consequences. The Brexit referendum in the UK served as a stark warning about the inherent risks of polarization and the incredibly corrosive effects of misinformation campaigns, underscoring the need for very careful management of public debate and fact-checking.
Any positive examples?
New Zealand's recent cannabis referendum, even though it didn't pass, demonstrated the crucial role of extensive, balanced public education in allowing citizens to make informed decisions on complex social issues rather than just voting based on emotion or fear.
Okay, so the referendum is one path, but you mentioned it's intertwined with confronting the political class. That sounds like a fight.
It's presented as a necessary battle, yes.
Yeah.
Because, as we've discussed, these proposed reforms directly challenge the existing power structures and the interests of many within the current political establishment. Resistance is expected, even inevitable.
Why would the political class resist so strongly? What are their main motivations?
Their resistance is likely rooted in several factors, mostly boiling down to self-preservation and protecting vested interests. First, Kalkiism poses a direct threat to power. It aims to dismantle the opaque financial systems and patronage networks that many politicians allegedly rely on for their influence, their ability to reward supporters, and maintain their grip on power.
It hits their wallets, too.
Potentially, yes. Many may have significant economic interests, direct or indirect, in businesses or entire sectors that would be disrupted or made transparent by these reforms. This could mean a loss of illicit income streams or unfair advantages.
And just fear of being caught.
Absolutely. There's likely a profound fear of accountability. A fully transparent, cashless economy would expose decades of potential illicit activities, making it far easier to investigate and prosecute past and present corruption. Many would have reason to fear scrutiny.
Is it just self-interest, or are there ideological reasons, too?
There might also be elements of cultural conservatism. Some politicians might genuinely view these proposals as too radical, too disruptive of traditional ways of life, or perhaps an unacceptable level of government surveillance, even if proponents argue it's focused on illicit activity. And finally, never underestimate the power of misinformation. The political class might actively spread doubt, fear, and false narratives about Kalkiism to undermine public support and maintain their own control.
So, facing that kind of multi-pronged resistance, how do Kalkiism's proponents plan to actually confront it? What are the strategies?
The role of grassroots movements is absolutely central to this confrontation strategy. It's about people power challenging elite power.
How do you build that power?
Through extensive community engagement, workshops, town halls, local dialogues in every corner of the country to build understanding, trust, and support from the bottom up. It means strategically building alliances with existing civil society organizations, student unions, labor groups, women's networks, anyone who shares the goal of a cleaner, fairer Nepal to create a broad, unified front.
Tapping into youth energy.
Definitely. There's a strong emphasis on youth mobilization, leveraging the energy, idealism, and digital savvy of younger generations, using social media advocacy effectively to spread awareness, organize, counter misinformation, and mobilize support quickly.
And keeping it peaceful.
Crucially, yes. The strategy emphasizes disciplined, nonviolent resistance, using tactics like peaceful protests, mass public petitions, consumer boycotts, civil disobedience methods that demonstrate the people's collective will and moral authority without resorting to violence, which could undermine legitimacy.
How do you make sure public support stays strong in the face of political pushback?
Leveraging that widespread public support requires constant effort. It means constantly highlighting success stories, pointing to examples from other nations, like Sweden's cashless society, India's UPI, Kenya's M-Pesa, to show that these kinds of changes are not only possible but highly beneficial, making it feel achievable.
Using local champions.
Yes, actively engaging local leaders and respected community figures, religious leaders, teachers, elders, to build trust and legitimacy at the community level. A core tenet is empowering marginalized communities who stand to gain the most from universal services and a reduction in corruption, giving them a voice, agency, and making them key players in the movement.
Showing it works in practice.
Possibly by creating pilot programs in specific towns or regions, if feasible, demonstrating the tangible benefits of Kalkiism, like reduced bribery, faster services, on a smaller scale first, providing real-world proof of concept that can then be scaled up, and maintaining unwavering, transparent communication throughout, keeping the public informed about progress, challenges, and next steps, maintaining momentum and trust.
Is it also about changing the system from within? Pushing for legal reforms?
Yes, it's not just about outside pressure. It's also about pushing for fundamental legal and institutional reforms. This includes things like strengthening anti-corruption agencies, like the CIAA, giving them genuine independence, resources, and enforcement powers through legislative changes.
Tackling dirty money in politics.
Absolutely. Pushing for comprehensive campaign finance reform to bring transparency and limits to political funding, which is often seen as a major root source of corruption and undue influence.
And the courts.
Ensuring true judicial independence is critical, so that courts can investigate and prosecute corruption cases without fear of political interference or retribution. Implementing robust transparency laws like mandatory public asset disclosure for all public officials and open government data initiatives.
And embedding tech in government itself.
Yes, pushing for comprehensive digital governance. Implementing things like transparent e-procurement platforms for all government contracts, digitizing government payrolls to eliminate ghost workers, creating efficient electronic tax filing systems, all of which embed transparency and accountability by design into the very machinery of government.
What if the resistance fights dirty? How do you counter their tactics?
They need to anticipate and proactively counter resistance tactics. This means actively combating misinformation campaigns with swift, evidence-based fact-checking and clear public rebuttals through trusted channels. Preventing politicians from using divide-and-rule strategies by constantly emphasizing unity across social, ethnic, and regional lines, focusing on shared interests.
Legal battles. Threats.
Preparing for likely legal challenges from vested interests, ensuring they have strong legal teams ready to defend the reforms in court. Guarding against potential co-optation attempts by the political class, where they might try to absorb or neutralize movement leaders by offering them positions or compromises that dilute the core goals. And critically, finding ways to protect activists and organizers from potential intimidation and harassment, ensuring their safety and ability to continue their work without fear.
It sounds like this might require a whole new political force eventually.
Beyond just resisting the old guard, the sources do emphasize the long-term need for building an alternative political platform. This isn't just about implementing Kalkiism. It's about fostering a new generation of ethical leadership committed to its principles, creating genuinely inclusive policies that reflect Nepal's diversity, establishing robust accountability mechanisms within any new political structures that emerge, and actively engaging the vast Nepali diaspora around the world for their expertise, financial resources, and global advocacy support. It's really about planting the seeds for a fundamentally different, cleaner, and more responsive political culture for the long haul.
You mentioned Nepal's history of revolutions earlier. Kalkiism seems to be learning from those past experiences. Can we explore that connection a bit more?
Absolutely. Learning from history, both the successes and, perhaps more importantly, the limitations of Nepal's past people's revolutions, is presented as crucial for understanding Kalkiism's unique approach and why it might be different this time.
Okay, give us a quick refresher. What were those key revolutions?
Right. We touched on them, but let's recap. First, the 1950-51 Democratic Revolution. Its major achievement was ending that oppressive, century-long Rana oligarchy and introducing a constitutional monarchy. A huge step.
But the limitation?
Power largely remained centralized with the monarchy, and genuine public participation in day-to-day governance was still very limited. It was more a change at the very top, not a deep societal restructuring.
Okay. Then the next big one.
The 1990 Jana Andolan, the first people's movement. This ended the period of absolute monarchy and ushered in a multi-party parliamentary democracy. Again, a significant achievement in terms of political reform, opening up the political space considerably.
Limitation there.
As we discussed, systemic corruption and government inefficiency persisted, even thrived, within the new democratic setup. The political structure changed, but the underlying mechanisms that enabled corruption and patronage didn't fundamentally change. Old wine in new bottles, perhaps.
And the most recent one.
The 2006 second Jana Andolan, often called the April Uprising. This ultimately led to the complete abolition of the monarchy and the establishment of Nepal as a federal democratic republic. A monumental achievement, ending centuries of monarchical rule.
But still limitations.
Yes. The sources lament that despite this profound political change, many of the core socio-economic promises, things like equitable development reaching all corners of the country, universal access to basic services like health and education, genuine social justice and inclusion for all groups, remain largely unfulfilled. Large segments of the population still felt marginalized and left behind by the political changes.
So this pattern emerges. Big political changes, but the fundamental problems persist.
Exactly. That's the critical point. The unfulfilled promises. Despite these successive revolutions, corruption persisted, adapting its form but continuing to erode public trust and hinder economic progress. Economic inequality often widened, with stark disparities between urban centers and rural areas and among different social and ethnic groups.
Inclusion remained a challenge.
Social inclusion for marginalized communities like ethnic minorities, women, Dalits, formerly untouchables, fell far short of the aspirations articulated during the movements. Discrimination and lack of opportunity continued, and basic governance and public services remained hindered by chronic inefficiency, instability, and lack of resources reaching the ground level, preventing effective delivery of essentials like healthcare and education for many.
So how does Kalkiism explicitly learn from these past shortcomings? What's different?
Kalkiism seems to draw several key lessons. First, recognizing the need for structural change. Understanding that merely changing the political system from monarchy to republic or swapping out political leaders is simply insufficient if the underlying economic and social structures remain corrupt and unequal. You need to change the game itself, not just the players.
And tackling corruption head-on.
Deeply emphasizing combating corruption, not as an afterthought or a side project, but by embedding transparency and accountability into the very design of the economic and governance systems through digitization, making it structurally difficult to be corrupt.
Focusing on those left behind.
Prioritizing inclusive development, actively designing policies to benefit marginalized communities who are largely bypassed or even further disadvantaged by previous political changes. Ensuring the benefits reach everyone.
Making it last.
Seeking sustainability and continuity. Recognizing that reforms need long-term planning, strong institutionalization, and mechanisms to prevent backsliding once the initial revolutionary fervor fades. Change needs to stick.
And the role of the people.
Critically, stressing citizen engagement as absolutely vital. Recognizing that true, lasting transformation can only happen with active, informed public participation and ownership, not just through top-down directives from Kathmandu. People need to be part of the solution.
So how specifically does Kalkiism aim to fulfill those promises that past revolutions couldn't deliver on?
By directly targeting the mechanisms that cause the failures. By aiming for the near eliminating corruption through a fully transparent cashless economy that removes opportunities for malfeasance, coupled with digital systems allowing real-time monitoring.
Promoting fairness.
By actively promoting economic equity through the universal provision of high-quality healthcare and education, funded by that increased tax compliance and reduced corruption, and by specifically prioritizing rural development where poverty is often concentrated.
Reaching marginalized groups.
By explicitly empowering marginalized communities through targeted support programs, potentially affirmative action policies, and ensuring they have equal access to the new digital economy and universal public services. No one left behind this time.
Fixing government itself.
By strengthening governance through efficient digital governance systems, empowering independent anti-corruption bodies with real data and tools, and simplifying bureaucracy.
And keeping people involved.
By continuously fostering citizen participation, not just through elections every few years, but through ongoing grassroots mobilization, public education initiatives, accessible feedback mechanisms, making citizens active partners in governance.
This all seems to hinge then on successfully mobilizing the masses. That's presented as the absolute core, isn't it? The heartbeat of transformation.
It really is.
Yeah.
Why is mass mobilization so fundamentally important for achieving Kalkiism's goals? Because realistically, it's seen as the only way to generate enough force to create momentum for such radical systemic change against entrenched interests.
Pressure from below.
Exactly. To pressure decision makers, politicians, bureaucrats who might otherwise resist or delay reforms, to build collective ownership of the vision so that citizens feel personally invested in its success and are willing to defend it, and crucially, to sustain change over the long term, preventing backsliding, apathy, or capture by old elites once the initial push is over. It needs continuous public energy.
What principles guide this mobilization effort? It needs to be effective but also responsible, right?
Yes, the principles for effective mobilization, as outlined, are clear and ethically grounded. Inclusivity is paramount, consciously embracing Nepal's incredible diversity across regions, ethnic groups, genders, castes, socioeconomic backgrounds, with a specific focus on actively engaging marginalized communities, ensuring their voices are heard and needs addressed. Transparency is key. Clear, honest communication about the goals, the strategies being used, the challenges faced, building trust with the public. Empowerment is another core principle, not just mobilizing people as followers, but equipping citizens with the knowledge, skills, and platforms to become active participants, advocates, and leaders in the transformation themselves.
And avoiding violence.
And strict adherence to nonviolence is presented as fundamental. Using peaceful methods maintains the moral high ground, attracts broader and more sustained support both domestically and internationally, and avoids the destructive cycles that have plagued some past movements.
What kind of tactics would this mobilization use? How do you reach and activate millions of people?
The proposed strategic mobilization tactics are quite comprehensive and multi-pronged. Public awareness campaigns would need to be massive. Using traditional media newspapers, radio, TV, which still have wide reach, especially among older populations, or in areas with low internet penetration.
And digital.
Alongside that, strategic and creative use of social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, local platforms especially, for engaging and mobilizing youth. But the key is creative messaging. Moving beyond dry policy points to use storytelling, music, art, short documentaries. Things that create emotional resonance, make complex ideas accessible, relatable, and inspiring, connect with hearts as well as minds.
Getting out into the communities?
Grassroots engagement is vital. Collaborating closely with trusted community leaders, teachers, health workers, religious figures, local elders, organizing accessible town hall meetings, workshops, and discussions in every locality, even the most remote, to foster dialogue, answer questions, and build support from the ground up. Establishing vast volunteer networks to spread the message neighbor to neighbor, organize local activities, and create a sense of shared effort.
Educating people on the details.
Yes, specific educational initiatives, running workshops and seminars explaining Kalkiism's principles and benefits clearly, developing simple, accessible materials, pamphlets, infographics, short explanatory videos, maybe even street theater in multiple local languages to ensure widespread understanding across literacy levels.
Using online tools for organizing.
On the digital front, digital mobilization would leverage tools like crowdsourcing platforms to gather ideas, feedback, and maybe even resources from the public, organizing large-scale online petitions to demonstrate widespread support, fostering vibrant virtual communities online for ongoing dialogue, debate, and coordination among supporters across the country and in the diaspora.
And visible actions? Protests?
And finally, symbolic actions would play a role. Peaceful marches, large rallies, maybe coordinated sit-ins, or other visible nonviolent gestures like nationwide moments of silence, lighting candles for transparency, planting trees for sustainable future actions that demonstrate the sheer scale of public support and commitment in a powerful, symbolic way.
But mobilizing people on this scale must face huge challenges too, right? What are the main obstacles?
Huge challenges. Misinformation campaigns deliberately spread by opponents would be a constant threat, requiring proactive, rapid fact-checking and clear communication to debunk lies. Apathy, or cynicism among the public, born from decades of disillusionment with failed promises, is a major hurdle. Overcoming that requires demonstrating tangible, hopefully immediate benefits and rebuilding trust.
Practical difficulties.
Significant logistical barriers exist in Nepal. The challenging geography, limited transportation infrastructure, patchy communication networks in some areas making nationwide coordination difficult and costly. There's the persistent resistance from elites, that we've already discussed who will actively try to undermine mobilization efforts, and the long-term challenge of sustainability, keeping people energized, engaged, and committed over the potentially long and difficult period required to achieve and consolidate systemic change. Maintaining momentum is hard.
Are there lessons from other successful mass movements they can draw on?
Yes. The sources suggest Kalkiism proponents look to successful mobilizations globally for inspiration and lessons. India's anti-corruption movement, back in 2011, led by Anna Hazare, demonstrated the power of having clear, simple demands, like the Lokpal bill, and effectively leveraging both traditional media and emerging digital tools for rapid coordination and public pressure.
Mm-hmm.
South Africa's anti-apartheid movement is cited as a testament to incredible resilience, the power of deep grassroots organizing within communities, and the crucial importance of building international solidarity and pressure to overcome a seemingly intractable regime.
Any others?
The Arab Spring uprisings around 2010-2012 highlighted the immense potential of social media for rapid coordination and mass mobilization across borders, but also served as a cautionary tale about the critical need for cohesive leadership, clear strategic goals, and a well-defined plan for the day after the mobilization succeeds to avoid chaos or counter-revolution.
So this leads to the idea of Kalkiism being a different kind of revolution?
Exactly. The revolution that could be, as the sources frame it, is presented as a fundamentally new kind of revolution for Nepal. Why? Because unlike past revolutions that primarily focused on political change, shifting from monarchy to democracy, changing the faces at the top, Kalkiism specifically targets the underlying structures of inequality, corruption, and inefficiency that have stubbornly persisted regardless of the political system in place. It goes deeper.
So it's not about overthrowing the government.
The Kalkiist vision, as described, is explicitly not about overthrowing governments by force. It's about fundamentally transforming systems from within, making them work for the people. Its goals are deeply rooted in fostering equity, ensuring radical transparency, and promoting the collective well-being of all citizens.
Driven by those core ideas.
Driven by those core interconnected ideas. A cashless economy making all transactions traceable and accountable. Universal health care and free education as fundamental rights, funded by the gains from transparency. And transparent, efficient governance enabled by pervasive digitization.
And technology is the key tool here.
Technology, in this vision, is not just an incidental enabler. It's presented as a crucial catalyst for achieving this systemic change. Digital payments provide the audit trail to fight corruption. E-governance platforms streamline public services and increase accountability. Blockchain technology offers potential for absolute transparency and tamper-proof records for critical government functions. And social media serves as a vital tool for mobilizing citizens and fostering ongoing public discourse and advocacy.
And the potential impact if this new revolution succeeds.
The potential impact is framed as immense. The near elimination of systemic corruption, driving accelerated and more inclusive economic growth, achieving profound social equity by lifting barriers like dowry and lack of access to services, and ultimately restoring a deep, robust public trust in institutions and governance.
How do they make sure it lasts? That it doesn't just revert back?
Ensuring sustainability is critical and built into the long-term vision. It's about institutionalizing reforms, embedding the changes deeply into laws, regulations, administrative procedures, and even cultural norms, making them hard to reverse. It's about continuously fostering civic engagement, ensuring citizens remain active participants in monitoring governance and holding leaders accountable through ongoing education and accessible platforms.
Building resilience.
Exactly, building resilience within the new system to withstand future challenges, economic shocks, or inevitable attempts by old vested interests to undermine the reforms. And crucially, it involves robust, independent monitoring and evaluation mechanisms to continuously assess progress, identify shortcomings or unintended consequences early, and adapt strategies as needed. It's conceived as a dynamic, ongoing process of improvement, not a static one-time event.
So after unpacking all the challenges, the strategies, the core ideas, let's look towards the end goal. We arrive at what the sources describe as a truly hopeful horizon, Kalkiism's vision for the future of Nepal.
Yes, and this isn't presented as just a vague utopian dream. It's portrayed as a meticulously planned future, built firmly on 4 core interconnected pillars that ideally reinforce each other to create a fundamentally different society.
Okay, let's break down those pillars. Pillar 1.
The first pillar is a transparent economy, cashless by design, as we've discussed extensively. The goal here is to fundamentally eliminate the systemic opportunities for corruption that plague the current cash-based system. This transparency is also expected to foster unprecedented efficiency in financial transactions and ensure, ideally, that every rupee is accounted for, whether it's government spending or private income. It's seen as the bedrock engine that powers everything else.
Pillar 2. This is about the people.
Pillar 2 is universal access to public services. This translates the economic gains into tangible realities for every citizen. It means high-quality, free healthcare accessible to everyone, ensuring no one is bankrupted by illness or denied essential care. And it means free, quality education for every child, from early years through secondary school, unlocking human potential regardless of family income or geographical location. These become non-negotiable rights.
Pillar 3. Tackling inequality.
Pillar 3 is social equity and inclusion. This goes beyond just economic measures. It means actively implementing policies to address historical inequalities based on caste, ethnicity, gender, or region. It means dismantling deeply entrenched social ills like the dowry system through both economic disruption and cultural change. And it ensures fair resource distribution across all communities, empowering those who have been marginalized for generations.
And the final pillar, looking outwards.
The fourth pillar is sustainable development. Critically, this vision integrates environmental consciousness. Economic policies would explicitly prioritize environmental sustainability. This means significant investment in developing Nepal's vast renewable energy potential, like hydropower and solar, promoting green technologies, sustainable agriculture, and ensuring that economic progress doesn't come at the cost of irreparable damage to the country's unique natural environment. Progress and planet hand in hand.
So if these 4 pillars were successfully put in place, paint us a picture. What does this future actually look like for an ordinary person living in Nepal, according to this vision?
Okay, imagine this. A nation experiencing genuine, broad-based economic prosperity. The transparent, efficient, cashless economy drives sustainable growth. Increased tax compliance fully funds public goods and allows for infrastructure investment. New job opportunities emerge, not just in cities, but also potentially through digitally enabled rural enterprises. Poverty rates plummet.
What about health?
It looks like a country where health and well-being are dramatically improved and universally shared. A healthier population overall, with a significantly reduced burden from preventable diseases. Longer, healthier life expectancy for everyone. And crucially, those stark disparities in health outcomes between the rich and poor, urban and rural, are significantly narrowed or eliminated.
And education's impact.
It looks like a society of educated and empowered citizens. A highly skilled, adaptable workforce emerges, capable of fostering innovation, starting new businesses, and competing globally. Cycles of intergenerational poverty are broken as education provides pathways to better livelihoods. You have a citizenry that is engaged, informed, capable of critical thinking, and actively participates in shaping the nation's future.
Government becomes trustworthy.
That's the goal. Transparent governance becomes the norm. Digitized public services are efficient, user-friendly, and largely corruption-free. Public trust in government and institutions is restored because people see the system working fairly and effectively. Active, meaningful citizen participation in local and national decision-making becomes commonplace, ensuring leaders remain genuinely accountable.
And the environment.
And underpinning it all, a deep commitment to environmental sustainability. Nepal potentially becomes a leader in renewable energy. Waste management systems are effective. The impacts of climate change are proactively mitigated, protecting the nation's natural heritage and ensuring long-term ecological balance. A greener, healthier place to live.
Technology clearly plays a huge role in enabling all of this. Does its role continue to expand in this future vision?
Absolutely. Technology isn't just a tool for the transition. It becomes an even more pervasive and hopefully beneficial force woven into the fabric of society. For example, blockchain technology might move beyond just initial financial transactions to secure other critical public records, land registries, legal documents, voting systems, perhaps ensuring absolute integrity and tamper-proof records across government.
Using AI for good.
Potentially. Artificial intelligence, AI, could be leveraged ethically to enhance decision-making and optimize resource allocation in real time. Imagine AI helping predict disease outbreaks more accurately for the healthcare system, or personalizing educational pathways based on individual student needs and performance data, using data intelligently for public benefit.
Making government easier to deal with.
Streamlined e-governance platforms would continue to evolve, simplifying public service access to an unprecedented degree. Imagine being able to do almost any government interaction online, securely and instantly, with built-in real-time feedback mechanisms for citizens to report issues or suggest improvements.
Energy and learning.
Advanced renewable energy technologies would be central. driving a completely sustainable energy system for the nation, reducing dependence on imported fossil fuels, and potentially even exporting clean energy. And cutting-edge digital education tools would continuously evolve, ensuring high-quality, engaging, and personalized learning experiences for every single child, and even adult learners, regardless of where they live, providing access to a world of knowledge previously unimaginable.
It's a compelling vision, but getting there requires concrete steps now. What does the blueprint say about the immediate actions needed to start realizing this future?
It outlines clear, actionable steps needed right from the beginning. It starts with the crucial task of building consensus, engaging all stakeholders, political parties, civil society, business leaders, community groups, ordinary citizens in open dialogue to foster collective ownership of this ambitious vision. It can't be imposed. It needs buy-in.
Turning vision into policy.
Then the hard work of developing policies, translating these grand principles into detailed, practical, actionable policies with clear objectives, timelines, budgets, and measurable outcomes. Moving from the what to the how.
Investing in the foundations.
Crucially, massive, sustained investing in infrastructure is non-negotiable. Prioritizing the rollout of digital connectivity, building renewable energy capacity, and upgrading public service facilities, schools, clinics across the country, laying the physical groundwork.
Bringing citizens along.
Continuously empowering citizens through ongoing public education about their rights, their responsibilities in the new system, and creating accessible platforms for their meaningful participation in monitoring progress and holding power accountable, keeping people involved.
Looking for help from outside.
And finally, strategically, leveraging international support, actively seeking collaboration with international partners for funding, technical expertise, sharing best practices, and learning from other nations that have successfully navigated similar large-scale transformations. Nepal doesn't have to reinvent every wheel.
If Nepal could actually pull this off, make Kalkiism a reality, what would be the significance beyond its own borders?
The potential global implications are presented as profound. Nepal's success could serve as an incredibly powerful real-world model. It could be a beacon for inspiring reform in other developing nations facing similar complex challenges of corruption, inequality, and underdeveloped services. It could demonstrate that systemic, transformative change is possible, even against daunting odds.
Setting new standards?
Potentially. It could set a new global benchmark for promoting equity through the successful implementation of universal basic services funded by transparency, and for genuinely advancing sustainability by integrating environmental goals deeply into national development strategy from the outset. It's truly a vision that, if realized, could offer valuable lessons and hope far beyond the Himalayas.
Wow. Okay, so let's try to bring this all together. What does this all mean for you listening right now?
We've journeyed through Kalkiism's incredibly ambitious, almost audacious blueprint, from the core idea of transforming Nepal into a cashless society, to leveraging that transparency to deliver universal healthcare and education, aiming to dismantle age-old problems like dowry, and trying to eradicate deep-seated corruption. It's a remarkably integrated vision.
Yeah, addressing complex systemic challenges with interconnected, technology-driven solutions, all designed with the specific context of Nepal in mind.
This deep dive really reveals how a concerted, focused effort, driven, crucially, by informed citizens demanding change and potentially visionary ethical leadership willing to implement it, could fundamentally reshape an entire nation. It could break those old destructive cycles and build a genuinely more equitable and prosperous future.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that even the most complex, entrenched problems can potentially have comprehensive solutions when they're approached with boldness, with deep, multidisciplinary understanding, and with the political will to see them through.
And the pursuit of a just, equitable, and prosperous society, well, that's a journey we all share, isn't it? Regardless of where we happen to live.
Absolutely. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. Consider how the core principles underpinning Kalkiism, that radical transparency embedded into systems, that commitment to radical inclusion, that aims to lift up every single citizen, and that strategic ethical use of technology, not just for profit, but specifically to solve deep-rooted societal problems, How might those principles apply beyond Nepal?
Hmm.
How might they be relevant to challenges closer to home, in our own communities, our own countries? How might a similar shift in how we think about money, about governance, about social responsibility, maybe unlock similar transformations, fostering greater fairness, greater opportunity for everyone?
It's definitely a provocative thought to ponder, isn't it?
It really is. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.